how to lose weight without really trying that much. This time, we're talking about why we eat too much, mindless eating versus mindful eating. The struggle to manage our weight has long been an issue, well before COVID made it even more challenging and problematic. When I started this series, the intention was to give you tips on releasing weight by adopting mindful eating and drinking as a stress-free way to adopt a healthy lifestyle, rather than doing diets that are mostly unsuccessful, fill your blame and shame tanks, and often lead you to divorce and hate your body. Hi, I'm Mary of Paloma Life Wellness. How has COVID affected our eating habits? What are the most common reasons we overeat? These are some of the questions I'm tackling here. It's important to understand why we eat mindlessly when we're not hungry. That way we can burst those balloons and take control of our food intake by eating mindfully. Mindful eating allows us to do the vital work of what is really going on below the surface of disordered eating. That is, beyond the physical need for food and drink. It's about exploring our emotional needs, the stories and traumas, past or present, from family, school, work, and community, how we relate to our body, the impact of media, advertising, and the food industry, as well as political and economic drivers that dictate food access and security. You'll be relieved to know that I won't be getting into all of that now, but I do want to bring awareness to the complexity of these issues. It isn't just about counting calories. I've been doing a bit of research on weight gain and obesity before and during COVID, and the results are sadly not surprising. Many children and adults in North America have gained weight since the pandemic began. In 2018, 63% of Canadians were either overweight or obese. A Dalhousie University survey last April revealed that 42.3% gained weight over COVID, with most gaining between 6 and 10 pounds. The key driver of overeating? Stress about the pandemic for 51.4% of respondents. In the US, obesity rates surpassed 40% for the first time ever in 2020 and have been increasing by 26% since 2008. A Harris poll of American adults over 18 last February found that 61% packed on unwanted pounds since March 2020, with a median gain of 15 pounds. As for kids between 2 and 19, the percentage of obesity has increased to 22% compared to the pre-pandemic rate of 19%. Children with healthy weight before the pandemic also saw an increase in their annual weight gain rate by 2 pounds. Preliminary studies find that boys have gained more weight than girls, likely because of additional screen time. What's especially intriguing about pediatric weight gain during COVID is that it mirrors weight gain in kids in the 2 years following both the 2008 recession and the Fukushima earthquake. Children who experienced evacuation and or the death of a relative were particularly affected, underscoring how trauma and weight gain are linked. I think the reasons for weight gain during COVID are clear to us all. Lockdowns that forced working and attending school from home, dramatic changes of routine leading to a far more sedentary lifestyle, increased screen time, easy access to food in the home, and sleep disruptions. Stress out of fear of COVID and or social isolation and boredom are also significant drivers of eating more, and what the director of the American Academy of Pediatrics called the perfect storm for gaining weight. Of all the overindulging behaviors and addictions we can possibly have, overeating is the most challenging to beat because we have to eat. It's much easier to go cold turkey on a bad habit. I already pointed out some of the reasons we reach for food as far as our COVID experiences are concerned, but there are other basic ones, and here they are. Being hangry. We're so famished we scarf whatever is easy and within reach, which often is processed foods high in calories. Pleasure. We just love the taste, texture, and smells of well-prepared and favorite foods. Fatigue. Our energy levels are low, caffeine doesn't cut it, so we reach for food, mostly sugary food, hoping to get a second wind. Comfort. Food can offer us emotional escape, safety, nostalgia. Think family recipes, familiar homey aromas that are calming, like cinnamon and oatmeal, foods that make us happy and feel cared for. Also, cooking and baking are very soothing, nurturing, and meditative practices, and this explains the bread making craze. Numbing. We want to freeze our emotions as a coping mechanism to deal with inner and or outer traumas. Numbing is common to all addictive behaviors, from drinking to smoking to gaming to binging on Netflix. Avoidance. You have bills to pay or taxes to do or other tasks that you identify as being unpleasant, intimidating, or time-consuming. Reaching out for a snack is easier and seems more emotionally satisfying than dealing with chores that are perceived as overwhelming or triggering. Routine or scheduling conflicts. Eating because it's time to, or anticipating hunger. This is a typical work situation. You have your lunch break at noon. You might not be hungry, but you eat a full meal anyway. Or you're rushing from work to another activity, and you just might shove something in because you might not be able to eat when hunger strikes later. Parents can relate to this when rushing from one extracurricular activity to another. Dehydration. So often we reach for food when we're thirsty. It's really easy to confuse our hunger signal with our thirst signal, especially if we don't pay attention to them routinely. Complicating things more is that both hunger and thirst can present as feeling headachy, lightheaded, and nauseous. It's even possible to get hunger pangs in your stomach when you're thirsty. Research has shown that people drink when thirsty only 2% of the time. In 62% of the cases, individuals confuse hunger and thirst cues every which way. Because it's there. We eat without thinking why. Sometimes it's boredom, sometimes it's restlessness, which is not anxiety. It's important to highlight this. Restlessness is about not knowing how to direct our energy. For example, we have a need to keep our hands or mouth busy, so we eat for sensory satisfaction. This happens often when smokers quit cigarettes and they have a compulsion to mimic the physical action of smoking. Impulse eating is also very common in those with ADHD for many different reasons. Social eating. We all do this. We eat and drink as a courtesy to our hosts, to be part of a social contract, as a reward to ourselves, and sometimes because we're anxious in social situations. Guess what? We eat more in a group than in a crowd. If you're at a packed movie theater by yourself, you'll be eating as you normally do. But if you're with friends, you'll eat more. And the bigger the group of friends, the more you'll eat, partly because it's socially understood that a shared meal is a feast and special, giving us license to eat more. Winter. We instinctively think the more food we eat, the warmer we'll feel. And as those of us in northern climates know all too well, the food choice in winter is carbs. And that's why we call it the Winter Five. The worst thing about overeating or any other addictive behavior is that after indulging, which is a choice, the voice in our heads fills us with guilt and shame, throwing us into a terrible vicious circle. I already failed once today, so I might as well go all out and start my diet again tomorrow. Let me know in the comments below what your experiences are, whether this resonates with you, and what you'd like to know about changing your eating habits. I'd also be intrigued to know whether there are other circumstances that drive overeating. I'll be back with tips to beat these mindless, impulsive eating habits and transform the guilt, shame, and self-blame that go with it. If you need more support in your health journey to get to the root of why you overeat and whether your relationship with your body is healthy, message me here or email me at mary@palomalife.ca. Thanks so much for listening and watching.